Hi, this is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live, and I believe this is episode number 35. I forgot to check today. You can see the title is Defending Speech Level Singing Approach, and we're going to talk about that. Before I get too far into this, I would like to verify that you could actually see me and hear me. So, welcome to this broadcast. And I'm very excited to talk about this subject. It's a subject near and dear to my heart. And depending on who you're talking to, it's also very controversial. So speech level singing is a singing technique. It's a technique of, it's a pedagogy. Altic, how are you doing? Are you okay? Can you hear me and see me all right? And so, I want to verify that I am heard and seen before I get too far into this. It's a beautiful day here in the Intermountain West of the United States. Great, thank you. So that apparently I can be seen and heard. All right, I'm going to share a comment that I had this week from one of my subscribers. Millennium SDS, welcome, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me too. All right, let me read this to you. Well, you can read along. I got this from a subscriber by the handle of Eternal Morris. And maybe Eternal is the first name, I don't know. So here's what Eternal said. Thanks, Chuck, for all that you've done already and that you continue to do for the improvement of my voice. Your videos are so inspirational and keeps me going when progress is slow. Of all the YouTube vocal coaches, you seem the most genuine, compassionate, and professional. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. What you're giving for free helps a great deal. No one else gives this out for free if they weren't fully devoted to helping out those unfortunate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your approach is the speech level singing approach. And he is correct, or she is correct. This pedagogy gets a lot of flack for being incomplete and anachronistic to contemporary singing. Is this true? Can those under this branch sing only specific genres of songs? I've decided that I'm going to adapt some principles of speech level singing, like keeping my larynx low, reducing strain, and singing effortlessly through my bridges. The other methods of singing until I find a perfect blend of what fits me. If you can make a video showing that SLS users can sing all kinds of music, all the remaining hesitations that I have about taking professional vocal lessons would dissipate. As a singer, no one wants to feel limited. Thanks again. And then here's what I answered, and I'll go into more detail on this. Thanks, Eternal Morris. Yes, I've been trained by SLS and Seth Riggs and many of his master level teachers. I think speech level singing has received criticism because we allow the natural development of the singer's voice, which sometimes takes longer. A lot of singers have thrived with this technique, including Michael Jackson, Barbra Streisand, Stevie Wonder, Natalie Cole, and many others. And then I recommended he get the book Singing for the Stars. There are many testimonials from professional singers from all genres. Personally, Seth Riggs and speech level singing has had a life-changing impact on my voice. Now, I share that with you because I feel like it was a great question. And this is something that comes up periodically online, especially. And that is, what is with speech level singing? There's some people who are open critics of it. Well, a lot of people, I think. A lot of the other teachers are critical. Many of them, not everybody, but many of them are. And so, let's talk about it for a minute. I want to just kind of provide my own testimonial that speech level singing has changed my life. And any of you who know my story, you know that when I was younger, I sang a lot, and I was in high school musicals, and it became apparent to me that I had a limited range. I could only sing to the E above middle C. I went ahead and I still had leading roles in the school plays and was very passionate about singing. I went to Europe with our Madrigal group. We toured Europe for 3 weeks. We had concerts in 4 cities in Europe. We had concerts in Frankfurt, Zurich, Rome, and outside London. And then we sang in literally every cathedral that we entered into. We sang in cathedrals. We sang at our lunch stops and dinner stops. We sang at the Colosseum in Rome. We wanted to be live at the Colosseum. And so it was the only thing I ever did in school, in high school. And so as a college student, I entered as a music major, and but became quite discouraged within the first year, and largely due to the seeming limitation of my voice. And then I left for 2 years to serve a mission for my church. And when I came back, I changed my major. I just decided that, well, what happened was while I was gone in my service, I sang a solo in church and just bombed it. I just was bad. I knew I was bad. I knew everybody else knew I was bad. I was embarrassed and so discouraged. This was the low point. So discouraged. I thought, if I can't do this, what am I doing in this industry? What am I doing as a music major? But my first love was being on stage and being in theater and singing. I continued to sing in the oratorio choir at Brigham Young University. I did that for 4 years and loved it. So I have more of my story. If you want to read about it, you can go to powertosing.com about me, and there's more information there, and there's a video on there. But when my oldest daughter was in high school, she came home one day with a flyer. It said that there was a man coming to school on the weekend, on Saturday morning, who was from Los Angeles, California, and he teaches Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder and Bette Midler and all these big stars, Madonna, and so I said, well, let's go for sure. And so my wife and I and my 3 oldest daughters, we actually have 8 children, 5 girls, but my 3 oldest girls and I and my wife, we went to listen, and it was a man named Seth Riggs, and it just created a whole new possibility for my voice. The first thing we did was, and I thought, what was that? I didn't crack, but I went like up, went up high into my, I didn't even know what to call it. I went up high, but it didn't break or wasn't strained or hard. And so that immediately caught my attention. What was that? Couldn't believe it. I knew something that was just crazy. And so in the process of this workshop, I began to really get interested. So I started studying with Deborah Bonner, who was one of his teachers at the time. She lived locally here. And within 6 weeks, I sang notes that I'd never sung in my life. I sang the F above middle C, which I couldn't do before. And I got vibrato in my voice, which I hadn't had in 43 years. So anyway, for me, I got my confidence back. I started back in the theater again, now I performed in, I don't know, over 35 shows. I'm in a show right now, and I couldn't do these things if it wasn't for this. And in the process of all this, I began to realize I was very interested in what was this, and how could this impact my voice? How come nobody knew about this? How come my teacher didn't know about this? How come my teacher, who had her master's degree in vocal performance from the university, which I won't name, and had an album, and was classically, had opera background, and was a great singer, why didn't she know? Why didn't she tell me, by the way, you could sing higher if I can help you? Or she didn't know she didn't know. She didn't know she didn't know. She just figured that's, the way it was, because she wasn't taught that in her university. And there are many universities who don't teach it. And many teachers who don't teach it, because they don't know that there's a way to do it. The problem is there's a lot of gifted singers out there who can do it on their own. But I wasn't a gifted singer. I couldn't bridge. I couldn't get up into my head voice. So I became very interested in teaching and trained as a teacher back in 1997, and didn't do a lot of teaching. I did a little bit at night and with neighbors and things like that. But then in 2008, went into a certification program with speech level singing, and started progressing through their certification program. That's been discontinued now. They don't have levels. So I've been almost 9 or 10 years. Well, I opened my studio in 2009, so it's been 8.5 years, and counting the year before I was in my studio, about 9 years, 8 years full-time teaching. And so that's kind of my background on it. So for me personally, and a lot of the teachers, a lot of the people that I met in the process talking about speech level singing, they had similar stories, just like crazy things where they had damaged voices, and the speech level singing really just healed their voice. And it was just one thing after another of really remarkable stories about how speech level singing, excuse me, like changed their life. And I could relate because it changed my life. So I have some, that's just my personal experience, and I've heard a lot of other people talking about very similar kinds of experiences where they, their voices were, they were limited in some way, and then they found speech level singing. Now, I want to read this testimony here because this is going to be in part of an answer that he asked me. He asked me, can any genre sing it, or can you only sing certain genres? So Seth Riggs came out of New York. He'd worked in the New York Opera for, I can't remember, 3 to 6 years as a singer, and then worked on Broadway he was on Broadway 3 years, performing on Broadway. So he had his bachelor's and master's degree and so forth, but he really excelled in teaching. And then he moved to Los Angeles. And so when he started out, he was primarily opera and classical and musical theater as a teacher, but he couldn't make a living in opera and classical music. There just wasn't that much of demand, so he started teaching pop. And what happened there is he started working with some of the ENT physicians in the Los Angeles area, and they started utilizing him to rehabilitate singers' voices that had had surgery. And so Seth started working with them, and then the word got to Quincy Jones, and I think it was Quincy Jones, who had a young man who was 19 years old, had surgery on his vocal cords, and his name was Stevie Wonder. And so Seth was hired to rehabilitate Stevie Wonder's voice, and he had him back in 2 weeks, and this is post-surgery. So let me read this. So that's how Seth kind of got started down in Los Angeles, and he's got so many stories. But this is a guy named Thomas Hayward. I think he is deceased now, but so this book right here that I bought this in this is Singing for the Stars, and I bought this 20 years ago. So this is an older edition. I don't think this is in the new edition right now, but this is a gentleman who was a member of the Metropolitan Opera for 14 years as one of their leading tenors, and for the past 28 years had served as the artist teacher at SMU in Dallas, Texas. He studied with all the great singers. They all stressed singing and speaking. Speaking and singing is one of the most important functions of the gifted singer. This is discussed throughout Seth's book, Singing for the Stars. This is what it looks like. I have another edition here. So he said, I've had the pleasure of associating with Mr. Riggs for the past 20 years. Seth's one of the most outstanding teachers of voice in the world today, teaching the majority of pop singers that are among the world's most famous, as well as winners of the Metropolitan Opera auditions in New York City. Seth had 4 students who won the Met auditions, and then many others who won regional competitions and went on to sing professionally and throughout the world in opera. His understanding of the natural development of singing voice is much needed today, with all the inept teachers, then this is his words, all the inept teachers that are helping to bring about the decline of the operatic voice. His book, Singing for the Stars, is one of the most outstanding treatises on voice production available today. And I can only say amen to that. Go out and buy this. It's not very expensive. It's on Amazon. And so he said, Mr. Riggs' book is used by many of our students and teachers with outstanding results. I can only give highest praise for Mr. Riggs. Now, so I would just recommend that I might do a video someday with excerpts from from singers who has been taught by Seth and were his students and performed professionally. But I'll start out with the big one here is Michael Jackson, and Michael had, I don't know if his testimonial is in here or just his picture, but in the later editions, Michael's testimony is here, and let me share that with you, because one of the things that professional artists are concerned about is they don't want to take a voice lesson and have the teacher change the sound of their voice. And so if I can find this, that was one of the things that Michael was concerned about, and he was able to study with Seth and preserve his signature sound, right? So he studied with Seth for about 25 years. A great many voice teachers, Michael Jackson says, in their effort to teach a workable vocal technique, take away the singer's style and individuality that established his career in the first place. A great teacher is able to direct a singer toward a healthy, more extensive use of his voice without losing that special quality that sets him apart. Seth Riggs is such a teacher. His assistance on my albums, E.T., Thriller, Bad, Dangerous, and History, and his traveling with me on the 1988 World Tour continues to confirm my confidence in his approach. But, so that's Michael. And there's testimonial after testimonial in his books. Great testimonial by Stevie Wonder. I first met Mr. Riggs, or Seth Riggs, after corrective surgery. My bad vocal habits had caught up with me. I was forced to find a more correct way to sing. That was in 1967. Today I experiment with many different vocal styles and qualities. The musical muscular freedom to do that is the result of my work with Seth. I slip occasionally, but Seth is always there to rebalance my voice. Seth has been my only voice teacher. Now this is an older book. I don't know that he's studying with Seth right now, but for most of his life he did, and he's never had problems again. Michael Bolton, Natalie Cole, Bernadette Peters, very big star on Broadway and in Las Vegas. Many others. Broadway stars, songwriters, producers, famous actors, Carol Burnett, for example. Quincy Jones. Seth Riggs has an uncanny ability to prepare vocalists so that there is little time lost to usual vocal problems. His assistance during Michael Jackson's world tour kept Michael tuned up like a Ferrari. Luther Vandross, Al Jarreau, Whoopi Goldberg got her ready for a Sister Act. Anne Margaret, one of his first customers, and on and on. So James Ingram. So yes, the technique can be used by multiple singers, and genres. And that's a testimonial, I think, to what the technique does for us singers. Now, there's a difference between teaching technique and teaching repertoire, or teaching a specific style, or teaching a specific genre. I'm just talking about the speech level singing as a technique that's a healthy, all-around technique that will get you prepared to then apply it to the other genres. And I'm not saying that I'm great at all the genres, teaching all the styles and so forth, but I think I'm pretty good, and many others are also who've been trained in this technique in getting the voice in a healthy place that enable you to sing whatever you want to sing. So that's such a great question. Now, I'm a little bit. I've got a statement here by one of you guys that I would like to make a comment on. Seth was precursor. All coaching world must say thanks to him. He builds a series of best exercises in a personal system. Nothing after him is the same. And that's from Augustino Marino. Thank you, Augustino. I think that's a really great insight. You know, most of the time when I've heard Seth talking, he's just trying to get in touch with the original principles, the basic principles of the bel canto singing style, which is built around the ability of a singer to go from their, first of all, to have all their registers, chest, middle, and head, and superhead, have all those registers available to them, and to be able to bridge between the two, between the different registers. And that's really the fundamental basis of what is important in this technique. The other thing is that so that you can sing and understand, so that there's not some kind of distortion that's put into the voice. Some people, in order to get through the bridge, which is always the big challenge, they might just try and pull their lower voice up into the next register. So they might belt it up or yell it up, and or they might just disconnect, break into falsetto. Or they might try some other kind of a distortion, like some kind of a cover of some sort. But the idea behind the speech level singing is to be able to get from low to high without any distortion, so that the words are still understood, your voice still sounds like you. There's not tension or other problems in your voice. You're not having to drop the tone, so that if you have to completely let go to get through it. Sometimes people completely lighten up almost so there's no connection in order to get high. But the idea behind speech level singing is to be able to go from the bottom up to the top. Now again, as a young man, until 20 years ago, I didn't know that it was even possible to do well, I don't know, it was around high D. So all right, so I have to sing his praises. I have to say, this is like a revelation from heaven. That's the way I feel about it, because, if the world was teaching this would just be another ho-hum thing, but it's not. It's life-changing. Holger Schaefer, your passion in your own progress turns us into fascinated followers, and we are encouraged to try techniques as we believe in you because of your own example. We develop. And that's all. Thank you so much. That's so meaningful to me. You can only say what your experience is. You can only say what your experience is. And so that's my experience. And thank you for that comment, Holger. I appreciate it very much. So I'm not sure that I answered all of the questions that this young man had. I'm just going to take a quick look at this again and see. So the pedagogy gets flack. Yeah, this is an important thing. This pedagogy has gotten flack. It gets a lot of flack, and some people are critical of it because they feel like it's not complete or it's anachronistic to contemporary singing. And I think I understand, what he's saying. Some of the criticism is that, well, people who study speech level singing don't have the kind of voice for rock or pop or something. Anyway, you look in the testimonials and you see people who can sing pop, the king of pop. He did okay. Now, granted, he's gifted, right? But he was also still singing in top form at age 50. There are a lot of rock, pop people out there. They're not in their top form at age 50. Now, I don't think it's all gift. I think that the speech level singing prevents abuse of the voice. So let me see if I can get really short, encapsulated, and not go on and on about this. I believe my answer to this gentleman was this, and let me go back to it again. I think that speech level singing has received criticism because we allow the natural development in singers' voices, and sometimes this takes longer. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if a singer has to say, ma, 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 we say, okay, that's all right. It's going to get stronger. There's a temptation on the part of the teacher that I want to have that become powerful the first day. Ma, 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 ma. I wish I could get everybody to do that the first time. But voices just don't develop that way generally. The thing about speech level singing is that Seth has found that it's tension and squeeze and reach that causes the problems. And so what we try and do is the pedagogy teaches to eliminate tension, eliminate straining, eliminate stress, so that now the vocal folds inside the larynx, right in here, the vocal cords themselves can then begin to function freely without any interference from the extrinsic muscles surrounding them. That's when you find out they're pretty weak. Why are they weak? Because you've had to rely on extrinsic muscles to force it, to pinch it, to grab it, to reach, to make a big sound. And as a result, we've left the muscle and the development and the coordination of the vocal folds. It's as if we had braces on our legs, so to speak. We've been doing, we've bypassed what the vocal cords can do, and we've added something from the outside. But then we're always going to be limited, and we're always going to be straining and stressing, and so I think Seth's approach is what he's done is he's taken away the extrinsic muscles, which really become the crutch, so that the vocal folds can then be free to develop their own strength, their own power, and their own ability. And sometimes that means that you have to settle for ma 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 ma. No, 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 no. And I think we probably have, I don't know if we have any ladies with us today or not, but for the ladies, the same thing would be true on this, in the middle of their bridge. Here's the high C. Ma, 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 ma. Now, I'm kind of showing off with that because I couldn't do that some years ago, but the point is that it takes some time to develop the vocal cords if you want to do it without tension or artificially, if you don't want to do it artificially by pushing, grabbing, or mimicking. I mean, I know there are teachers out there who just say, no, 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 no. The way you make that sound is you do it like this. Ha! You know, or you know, you just muscle it, you know, and you get it there, and you know, and a lot of guys can, you know, they can get it in that place, but I think that's a short-term thing. I don't think it's going to be a 10, 15 year, 20 year coordination they're going to be able to maintain. So anyway, there's a company out there called, and I'll give them a plug, and they don't even call their name Core Performance. They train athletes, and they have a book called Core Performance, and what they focus in on is the first thing they start training is like the whole system, the whole body, because everything's connected to everything, and their exercises address the small muscle connective tissue around the joints, around the areas of motion, around the hips, around the knees and so forth, and then they start building that in their exercise program, and it takes longer, but they start building real power, real coordination, real mobility, and it prevents injuries. It gives longevity to the athlete, and all of these principles, I think, really apply to the voice. Instead of just grabbing the largest weights in the weight room and powering through and lifting and and trying to do those things. I mean, I used to work out with heavy weights and bench press and curls and presses and then I'd go take a shower and I'd reach for a bar of soap and I'd have a sharp pain in my shoulder and I had no weight on me. I was okay doing this, but I couldn't even lift my arm without pain to get a bar of soap. And the reason was because I had not been training any of the small muscles. I had not been training the fast twitch muscles. Anyway, all of those things you miss unless you focus on these fundamentals. And I think the same principle is true with the voice. And that's my opinion. That's not speech level singing. That's not Seth Riggs. In fact, I'm not a spokesman for Seth. I'm a teacher that I've been trained by Seth, but I am not an official spokesperson. I'm just a cheerleader. Rah, rah. I believe in it, and it's worked for me, and it's working for my students, and it's worked for a lot of people who do a lot more singing and a lot more, high-level stuff than I do. So I have complete confidence in it. It might take longer, but my gosh, it works. I've told this story before, but remember Pavarotti? He was being interviewed. Now, he did not study with Seth, but he's been interviewed on YouTube, and I've got it in a couple of my videos, and you can go online and find him and Joan Sutherland and who was the other, Marilyn Horne, I think. The three of them were interviewed, and in one point he says the really great tenor can sing and he has this great big booming sound, and he said, now that was all right, but it's not elegant. And then he says, and he said, now that might sound easy took maybe 10 years. Wow. You got to be kidding me. Pavarotti, 10 years to develop that? So, I think speech level singing gets criticized because sometimes real great things take a little while. And what happens is people bail out because they don't have the patience, or they don't apply themselves, or whatever. And it took me a while. I'll be very frank. It took me a while for my voice to really kick in. Immediately, I picked up a lot of notes, but to really do that in a song, it took me a while. I think I'm a little slower than some people. But hopefully, my experiences and so forth as a learner and as a student of singing is going to translate into what I teach too. And but it's certainly not speech level singing's problem. It's probably more the teacher, probably me or another teacher's limitation, or a student who just doesn't have the patience. And that's okay. It's not for everybody. Some people don't want to spend that time developing their voice. But I think it's possible to sing all the genres of music with this technique. You probably are going to have to get some additional training for the style. But again, Seth's approach on style is let the words guide you, and you'll be surprised how close to the style you can get by getting into the way the words are. Let me address any other questions here that you might have. This has been kind of more of like, I guess it's the defense of the speech level singing technique. Just looking through here to see if there's any other questions. And let me see. Yes, you can ask questions. For some reason, this is so magnified I couldn't read it.
There's a few of it.
Okay. You mean so? My wife is helping me field some of the questions here.
These are the questions. Go ahead.
Okay. So Altug, thank you. I appreciate that my story is inspiring, and I want to get it out there because I think there are many of you who are going through the same thing, and this has, if this can help you, then I want it to. That's really my passion behind this. I really want to spread the word throughout the world. It means a lot to me. This is what happens when you get old. Okay. So, Varduhi. Yes, that is a real problem to change register without distortion. And it very much is. And repeatedly, I've been taught by Seth that it's always about the bridge. It's always about the first bridge. If we can get things working really well in that bridge, then somehow the things above and the things below, they start working so well. Altug asked, how come my lower notes get better with these exercises? Oh, okay, well that's the answer. How come my lower notes get better with these exercises? Due to the tension in my voice going away? Yes, Altug. My larynx has dropped over the years. I actually have a deeper resonance now in my voice than I had before. And I'm not trying to, it's just that the larynx has settled down. One of the things I've noticed specifically in singing in musicals, sometimes I'm in a ensemble, like I'm in an ensemble in this show that I'm in right now, and I have some high notes. And if my larynx is up and I oversing throughout the show, when I have to come down and hit the low note, it's not there. I can't reach it. Why? Because the larynx is up, I've oversung and I'm pushing it too hard. So this technique, if the larynx is high, Altug and all of us, if the larynx is up, we can't get to the very bottom of our voices. Isn't that interesting? So we come down and sing the bottom. And I think, how come I can't hit that A? I've always got that A. Well, it's because my larynx is up, and I've been singing with the high larynx. So by having the larynx at speech level, and having this where it's supposed to be, then those notes are available to us. Okay. I have a problem at E flat 4. Shall I descend the octave, repeat, and 1/2 scale so that the top note becomes yes. So if we're doing the octave repeats, or if these 5-tone scales, it's the same doing nay nay nay, nay 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 nay, nay 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 nay. If that starts to get a little tough, or nay 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 nay, and it maybe cracks. Try this 1/2 scale, and you get a running start at it. It's like a broad jump. You can jump much farther if you run and then jump, and that's kind of what this. You get some forward momentum. Nay 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 nay, and you find it's going to hold. Nay 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 nay. Nay 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 nay. So it's a very good strategy to go to the 1/2 scale, and that's going to propel you beyond that, and it's going to start to open that up to you. Last question. Thanks for doing amazing live streams. My question is, I'm doing vocal training and singing every day. I feel a little tension and some dryness. This is from Mike. Thanks, Mike, for this question. I feel some dryness in my throat, but there's no pain. Is that healthy? You know, Mike, it'd be great if the first time we get into this, we could just have no tension. Just eliminate it all the first time. So it's really unusual to have perfection right away. The important thing is that you're becoming aware that there's tension. So keep doing things that take you from less tension to more no tension, just like you talk. Do you have tension when you talk? You know, are you tightening up, or we're not? And so this is a process. So becoming aware is the first step. And so when you know there's tension, then go back and try and do it again without tension. Put some bubbles into it. Or substitute a bubble lip in the song itself. Get that relaxed. Get that tension out. The dryness in the throat, you know, I don't know what to say. Sometimes it depends on where you live. In Utah, the United States, we're the second driest state in the nation, and it's a desert. So all of our yards and farms are irrigated by the snow melt off in the mountains. And I understand what you mean when you say dryness. Sometimes it's just it just happens to be your climate. Take a good hot steam bath. Keep yourself really hydrated. Drink, at least if you can, drink half a gallon of water a day or more. There's a question. This one right here. Why is the recorded version of voice sound different from the original? And will your technique help bring to minimal difference of recorded version? Don't know exactly what you mean, Bardui, because especially when I first was listening to my recorded voice, like record my lesson, and I'd get in the car and put my lesson on, and it was always so disappointing. I didn't think it sounded good. It didn't sound like I thought I was sounding. I don't think we ever really sound like ourselves. Like we hear inside, and then we hear a recording, we say, that's my voice. So that's one thing. I don't know if that's ever going to change, although I think you get used to the sound of your voice. Okay. All right. I have a problem that's in my head voice. My larynx is too high, and I feel tension. Yes, so in some of my lessons with students, and even in my own experience, if I can feel that my larynx is high and I'm feeling tension, one of the things I can do to counteract that is to add a dopey sound. Duh. And so if I add that dopey sound, I can put it right into a song. Gee, 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 gee. Gee, 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 gee. Go through it a couple times with the dopey gee, and then go back and try it, and use dopey words for, because that's going to pull the larynx down a little bit. The other problem might be that your vowel is spreading or opening. And that's a whole other subject. You would need to search that on my website, powertosing.com, in the Knowledge Center, under the categories, search vowels. And there's a whole strategy of narrowing the vowels, because I might be in good condition, but all of a sudden I spread the vowel and then my larynx goes up and I get more tension. So, thanks for my wife. Yes, she kind of keeps me on task. I've got to run, and I've got another appointment coming up soon. So thank you very much for joining me today. Forgive my emotions getting out of control, but I am very grateful for what Seth and Speech Level Singing has done for my voice, and I do want to share it and get it out to the world as much as possible, because I think there's millions of us, ladies and gentlemen, who will be helped by this. So thanks very much. This is Chuck Gilmore with Power to Sing Live. You can sing higher with beauty, confidence, and power. I'll see you inside the next video. Bye-bye.